Implementing play into the curriculum and the role of the teacher. As we look at implementing play into the curriculum, an important consideration is developmental appropriateness. The ages and stages must be taken into account as the teacher designs the environment and chooses materials and activities. Piaget describes the child under 3 as being in the sensory motor stage, and Erikson notes at this age that the child is developing both trust and autonomy. The caregiver for the very young child provides an environment rich in sensory motor experiences to be explored. There should be an array of interesting materials to touch, hold, crinkle, roll, bounce, pull, and dump. Exploration is the operative word at this stage. Interaction with adults in the form of song, themes, and conversation is also vital for literacy development. Even though age 5, kindergarten age, is considered preschool, because formal academics has moved down to this age level, we'll focus on kindergarten in its own category. Experiences at the preschool level should match the child's developing and emerging abilities, while at the same time provide some challenge for continued growth and expansion of interests. Dramatic play areas are especially important, where the child imitates and understands his or her world. Through this representation, spontaneous oral language is developed. Dramatic play areas should also contain opportunities to both read and write the written language, as well as tools to construct visual representations, such as blocks, clay, and painting or drawing tools. Before we go on, let's look at play in the classroom. Not all play is free play or recess-type activities. Although big body play is important for gross motor skills, locomotion, and even brain development, play within the primary classroom can take other forms that are just as meaningful in the child's development and learning. Developmentally, according to Piaget, 5-year-olds are in the pre-operational stage. They learn by doing. Teaching by talking should take a back seat to hands-on activities. Although some centers can offer free exploration, due to the increase in academic dictates, many of the centers can be fun ways of practicing and reinforcing those academic skills. Primary, ages 6 through 8. Piaget describes this stage as concrete operational. While the kids at this age become more logical about concrete and specific things, they still struggle with abstract ideas. Give children the chance to manipulate objects and test out ideas. Do simple experiments with the participation of the students. Use concrete props and visual aids whenever possible. Nacy says 6, 7, and 8-year-olds should be involved in hands-on activities rather than fatiguing mechanical seat work. Physically, children and adults should not be sitting for long periods of time. So keep children moving as much as possible. Take periodic brain breaks to refresh both the children and the teacher. In fact, take a break right now. Stand up, reach for the ceiling, and stretch. Stretch your toes, your legs, your arms, your fingers. Okay, back to work. When play is incorporated into the curriculum, the teacher has many roles. The teacher plans by deciding the objective, the content, and the necessary materials. As the center or lesson is implemented, the teacher can guide, mediate, be a resource, or be an active participant. The teacher can at this time assess. In fact, the teacher should be constantly assessing both the lesson or the center and the children's progress. This can be done from informal observation like note-taking or a more formal assessment. The assessment should cycle back to the plan so that adjustments or improvements can be made and future plans could be developed. Although some of these suggestions may seem like time wasters, while the stress of standardized tests looms ahead, in the long run, the result will be more learning and happier learners. And now, I'd like to conclude our class with more suggestions for practical implementation. The credit for the next slide and information comes from a former student, Christopher Horn.
Now that we have this knowledge, what do we do with it? I think back to a former administrator at our school who introduced us to the Japanese word kaizen, which means small change or continuous improvement. While we may not be able to transform our entire classroom or whole philosophy of teaching overnight, we can at least start by incorporating small changes. Even starting off by revamping a lesson a week can be a catalyst for further changes. These small changes can generate enthusiasm for both the teacher and the student. Understand that a play-centered classroom will look different than a strictly academic one. This may push some of us to the very edge of our comfort zones, especially if we are of the mindset that our students are learning best only in a quiet environment. We need to be willing to put this notion aside and embrace the motion and, yes, even the noise that comes along with having play in the classroom. Another idea that will help us grow, not only in this area but teaching in general, is being willing to connect with other educators. Whether meeting face-to-face with colleagues in the building or reaching out to others online, other teachers are excellent resources with whom to share ideas. What works for them? I bet you'd like to know. What worked for you? Share with another teacher, especially one new to the concept of play in the classroom. Finally, remember why we're making these changes. Think back to the Perry study mentioned earlier. The quality of education we provide for our students now could quite possibly make an impact that will last well into adulthood. The benefits of play in the classroom are very clear, and students of all ages have much to gain. Let's be willing to go against the flow of what policymakers say is best for our children and get back to what we know is right. Let's be the ones that will help the powers that be understand that play in the classroom is not a waste of time, but is actually something our students can't afford to miss.